Sometimes, the person who breaks you is the one who never learned how to hold anything gently, not because you weren't lovable, but because life taught them that love was war and closeness meant pain. Welcome to Broken Truth, where love meets lies, and every story reveals the pain behind the smile. People who carry unresolved trauma often move through love like it's a battlefield, not a home, if they were never given safe love. They may not know how to offer it. Trauma distorts connection, affection feels dangerous, honesty feels threatening, and closeness feels suffocating. When someone hasn't healed, they might betray the very person they love most, not because they want to cause pain, but because pain is all they've ever trusted. In this twisted lens, sabotaging love becomes a defense, not a decision. They push away what feels real because real feels risky, and sometimes they betray not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Fear that this time, love might ask them to confront everything they buried. She didn't know he was fighting ghosts until those ghosts started haunting her too. He would smile with his mouth, but flinch with his eyes, touch turned cold, words turned sharp. Every time she stepped closer, he would pull away, not physically at first, but emotionally, in a way that made her feel like she was loving a shadow. She stayed longer than she should have, thinking her love could fill the cracks in him, but he was leaking from places she could never reach, places carved open by someone else long before her. His betrayal wasn't loud, it was slow, like a door quietly closing, a text left unanswered, a secret kept, a lie wrapped in, "I didn't want to hurt you." And yet, he did, not with malice, but with patterns he never healed. She wasn't his enemy, but he treated her like one. Because love scared him more than loneliness, she remembers the first time he looked at her like she was too much, not loud, not dramatic, just too present, too real. It was a rainy night, the kind that hums quietly against windows and blurs the world outside. She had told him something simple, "I feel close to you when you're quiet," and instead of softening, he stiffened, as if closeness were a trap, as if quiet meant surrender. She watched something shudder behind his eyes, and he kissed her. Just to avoid answering that night, he held her like someone who feared being held back. She didn't understand it then, thought maybe he was tired, thought maybe she'd said the wrong thing, but now she knows. He didn't know how to receive love that didn't come with conditions. He had learned love through survival, through parents who punished before they protected, through partners who only stayed when he performed, through silence that felt safer than confession. He felt love was something to manage, not something to feel. And she, with her softness, her honesty, her open hands, she became a mirror he couldn't look into for too long. She didn't find out about the other woman from him. She found out through absence, through shifts so subtle they made her question her own instincts. His phone turned, face down more often. His smile arrived later and left earlier. He started calling her buddy in that joking tone, the way people do when they're distancing and hoping it passes off as play. It wasn't one betrayal. There was many small ones that bruised in silence, the way he stopped asking about her day, the way he laughed less during their late night talks, the way he forgot the names of things she loved, her favorite poet. The old song she once said reminded her of father. She confronted him once, calmly, not with rage, but with grief. "I don't feel you anymore," she said. "It's like you're here, but already gone." He didn't deny it. He just looked at her like he wished she hadn't noticed. That hurt more than anything, because it meant he had let her slip through his fingers long before she had the strength to walk away. There was no final fight, no big storm, just a quiet unraveling of threads she had tried so hard to hold together. She packed her things one evening when the silence in the room was louder than the sound of her own heart breaking. He sat on the couch, scrolling, pretending not to notice. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to say, "Please stay," That was the tragedy of it all. He didn't want to lose her, but he also didn't know how to keep her without hurting her. So he let her go the way trauma taught him, by becoming unreachable as. She walked out, she realized something no one tells you, that sometimes the person who hurts you isn't a villain. They're just a person who never learned how to love without fear. And fear, when left unchecked, turns even the gentlest touch into something sharp. For weeks after, she replayed everything, not to blame him, but to understand how love could feel so real, yet leave her so hollow. She remembered how he used to brush her hair back when she cried, how he held her like a secret in crowded rooms, how he once said, "You make me feel safe." And that scares me. She should have known then, because to someone raised in chaos, safety feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't always mean good. Sometimes it means dangerous. He had been taught that anything stable would fall apart, that anything consistent was a trick, that anyone who stayed would eventually leave, and it was better to leave first, to betray before being betrayed. He didn't cheat because she lacked something. He cheated because he lacked the capacity to believe someone could stay without hurting him, and in trying to protect himself from imagined abandonment, he created the very wound he feared. She knows now, love isn't enough when someone doesn't believe they deserve it. You can be everything soft and it still won't reach the places they've locked up tight. You can love gently, patiently, fully, and still be the casualty of someone else's war. Healing from that is complicated because there's no one to hate. No clear line between victim and villain, just two people, one loving deeply and one too afraid to accept it. She doesn't regret loving him. She only regrets the parts of herself she silenced to stay. The nights she didn't speak up because she didn't want to push him. The mornings she smiled through tears, hoping he'd notice the sadness in her voice. She knows now, staying quiet is not how you earn someone's love. It's how you lose your own. It's been months. And grief still shows up in strange ways. In the smell of his cologne on someone passing by. In a song they once danced to in the kitchen. In the way she still reaches for her phone when something beautiful happens. But she's learning. That closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a quiet decision. To stop waiting for someone to return as the person you first met. Sometimes it's telling yourself, I didn't fail. I just loved someone who couldn't see beyond their wounds. And sometimes, most importantly, it's choosing not to let one person's fear of love define how you give it next. Time, she's still soft, still hopeful, but now she knows the difference between carrying someone and being carried with. And when love returns, she'll ask it one question. Do you know how to stay without disappearing? Because next time, she won't fall for someone who mistakes love for survival. She choose someone who loves like a shelter, not a storm, and that she's learning is the truest kind of healing. She stopped asking why he did it, not because she didn't deserve the answers, but because chasing them kept her tied to a version of herself that believed love was something she had to earn. Healing for her began the morning she looked in the mirror and whispered, "You didn't fail." That simple truth was a rebellion against every thought that told her she wasn't enough. She still missed him sometimes, not the man he became, but the hope he carried in the beginning. But memory is not a reason to return. And she was learning that missing someone doesn't mean they were meant to stay. She took long walks alone now, not to escape the ache, but to listen to the parts of herself she had quieted, the part that wanted peace, not intensity. The part that longed for tenderness without needing to fight for it. The part that no longer called red flags passion. She stopped over-explaining her needs, stopped shrinking herself so someone else could feel more comfortable, stopped mistaking being chosen with being cherished. It didn't happen overnight. Healing came in pieces and better boundaries and new habits. In the soft way, she started saying no, without guilt. She no longer dreamed of changing him. She now dreamed of becoming someone who could spot the signs early and walk away before losing herself again. Her heart was still open, but now it had a gate, one that swung wide for kindness, but stayed closed to emotional chaos dressed as romance. And when the next love comes, because she still believes it will, she will ask it only this: can you stay and grow? Or are you just passing through to feel something before disappearing again? Because now she knows healing isn't about never being hurt again. It's about knowing who you are after you've been hurt and choosing to never betray yourself in someone else's name. Some people betray you because they never learned how to love without hurting. But your healing doesn't depend on their apology. It begins with your clarity. Subscribe for more stories and truths on Broken Truth.